Hi there, Andy back again, and welcome to my new 3-day course which is designed for you to make some real quick progress in your guitar playing, learning some fundamentals so that you can learn a new song in the best way possible. We're going to make it very engaging and a lot of fun. And we've structured it over 3 days. So each day we'll take a different aspect of the playing. Day 1, we'll look at control. Day 2, we're going to look at timing. And day 3, we're going to look at rhythm. And each day we'll give you some tips to take away. We'll have some practice sessions. We'll give you lots more sort of ideas on how you can improve yourself. We'll have a bit of fun, and you'll also have some homework to do as well. So you'll have little bits to take away as well. And over those 3 days, by the end of it, you'll have a lot more confidence to be able to play this new song. Now, you may know it already, you may not know it already, but if you've got some sort of level of basic chords, playing open chord ability, this will really help you towards achieving your goal. We believe it's really innovative, and it really gets you thinking about what you should be doing, what you should be learning, and how and why you should be learning it. It's a slightly different approach, but we are really convinced it's going to be really good for you. So stick with us for these 3 days. You're going to have a great blast doing this. So let's kick off with day 1. Right then, so let's have a quick look at the chords here. They're very simple. So what I'm going to do, I'll show you what chords are in the song, and then I'm going to show you where they come in the actual song as well, with breaking it up, just the verse and the choruses, because I've provided you with the chords and you've got all the structure there with it, so you can see where the chords come in the song. So the chords we're basically looking at is an E minor, a D, a G, a D suspended 2, and a C. That's all we have. That's all you need to know for this song. Easy, isn't it? So when you're looking at the song, how does it start? Well, the intro, when you listen to the intro, is just playing E minor to D to E. And then repeats that sequence, E minor to D to E. And that's exactly the same as the verse. It just keeps swapping between E minor, D and E minor. Okay, later on we'll be playing with a backing track so you see where it all comes in. But for the moment, that's all you need to know. Now, there's one thing we can do here. We're talking about E minor, D and E minor. You may want to, and it's entirely up to you, because I've seen REM live and I've seen the guitarists do it both ways. You can put in your D suspended 2. It's entirely up to you. What I like to do is play the D minor to the D suspended 2 in the intro and the verse. But I'll leave that up to you, but it's a nice lovely chord to learn to play. So that's the verses. Then we have a chorus bit. I've called it a chorus, but it's sort of a verse extension. But again, you can see the structure. Can't even speak. A G. Then I'm playing a full D chord, not the suspended fourth, the suspended second rather. And then we're playing the C chord like that. Okay? And that's all you need to know for the whole song. Nothing more than that. I'll be coming on to some tips in a minute to show you how to play it smoothly and how to make sure you execute those chords well, the way you should execute them. So a few tips in there which hopefully you'll take away, and you'll find that really useful as you go forward. So now let's have a look at playing those chords with a basic strum. So you're in control of what you're doing, starting very slowly at the basic level before you start ramping up. Don't run before you can walk, because you'll fall over, which I do a lot anyway, but even when you're playing guitar, it doesn't instill you with any confidence. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to show you a basic downstroke, okay? And then I'm going to have a little go about how I'm holding the plectrum and what I'm trying to do to create a nice melodic sound. So hopefully you've listened to the track a few times. And all we're going to do is play downstrokes for each chord like this. And after this, we're going to go to the G to the D to the C, okay? Just so you can get used to it. There's a G, full D chord, and then a C chord. And then back to the E minor to D, like that. Now, what I'm trying to do here is make sure that those notes all ring out really clearly. So there's 2 things you've got to be aware of here. One is to make sure you're fretting everything clearly. So when you're playing a chord, I would recommend a Yep, you can hear all the notes. And secondly, you've got to make sure you're hitting the right strings. So we're always going to hit what's called the root note, which is the lowest note of the chord that you can play. So with an E, you can play all 6 strings, because there's your root note, the E. You can play a G, there's your root note there. With both the D chords, you want to hit the open D there. And then with the C, you want to hit the C note there. Okay, so that's one thing you're doing, and this is what their control all comes about to, because you want to make sure you're accurate. So speed doesn't matter, but when you're holding a plectrum, I've taken quite care. I don't know what gauge this is, but if you can see that, it's a little bit flexible. I want a soft tone. I don't want anything loud, and when it's softer, I find I hold it in a softer position. So there's lots of videos out on how to hold the plectrum, correct way being something like that. I tend to sometimes use my middle finger, but it doesn't really matter what's comfortable for you. Hold that flexible plectrum nice and gently, okay? And you'll find, well I find anyway, it's easier to hit the right notes. And what I suggest doing is just before you even start playing the chords, just nice and gently, just doing a bit like that, okay? So you are in control of what you're doing. So you may think in your mind there's an E, and now I'm going to play a D, but just practice hitting those root notes like that, and that's what all the control's about. If you start playing, although you can play other notes in those chords, but if you're not accurate, you're not in control, the D could sound like this. Horrible, discordant mess, that because you're hitting that bottom E string. You need to be in control of that. So that's what the plectrum does. Try and practice that before you go on to anything else. Right, so before we go on to practice session, just want to share with you a few tips. So obviously we've gone through some of the chord changes, and then you might be struggling to actually change from one chord to another. So little tip that I've always used and still do now if you're playing horrible chords like that, all jazzy chords. Everyone struggles initially, or they should do anyway. What I like to do is visualize where my fingers are. So if you're going to start off, what we're going to do, we're just going to play an E minor to the D, okay? Not the D suspended, just the E minor to D. You can see where your fingers are. Now to change to that D string, in your mind, visualize what frets you're going to hit and what fingers are going to hit those frets. So straight away, I know where I've got to do it. So in my brain, if you haven't got that muscle memory and it's not sort of immediate what you've got to do, you can picture it up. Got it. So you can see exactly where that chord is. And you can do exactly the same for any of those chords at all. G is a classic example. So when I first learnt the G chord, I only played it like that, because I could only get one finger and my stumpy little digits on the guitar. But we're just learning downstrokes at the moment. Yeah. So what I would recommend as you're learning downstrokes, if you're going to do go from the E minor to the G, start by putting your fingers on the 3rd fret of the bottom E, and then the 2nd fret of the A, and then gives you a little chance. See that little pattern there? So you're visualising where you're going to be, and then you've got, oh, see, didn't do it right. So there you do that, and then you're just going to gradually put your fingers like that. Doesn't matter about the speed. And when you're strumming, if you're maybe strumming an upstroke, you do the opposite. You'd start from the top and bring it back down. So for each one of those chords, visualise where you're going to be playing them and get it instilled in that memory. It's a really, really good tip, that. I think it's really worthwhile thinking about that. So whilst you're doing that and you're thinking of visualising the chords, you've obviously got to try and think about the coordination between your right and left hand. Now we've already talked about hitting the root notes like that, okay? So what the coordination thing I think we should start looking at is, instead of playing the full chord, a bit of coordination while you're playing the chord, and then you go to the root note like that. And if you've got your G, and you're going to D, and then the C, making the chord shapes like that, but not strumming the chord yet. Therefore, you're getting your accuracy and your control, but what's more important, you're hitting the right notes. So coordination between strumming and that, strumming in your strumming hand and your fretting hand, is relatively easy. What's not is hitting those right notes. So getting some coordination between the two by hitting those root notes is a really, really good tip. So when you're doing that, obviously, you need to still think about what I said earlier about holding your pick nice and gently, okay? So you're doing that, or you're just practicing the strums. Nice big down strums like that, hitting the right notes. Now, at the moment, I've said hold that plectrum very, very lightly, just get that nice feel. But songs are boring if they're all played like that, all sort of regimented and linear. What we want to do, we want to sort of think about, later on in the song and later on in this course, you'll hear about putting some embellishments in, some harder chords and maybe some big strums. When you do that, you would need to hold your plectrum slightly tighter. So the tip here, or a little bit of practice routine, is the tip is like doing that, using a nice gentle holding of the plectrum. Then when you hit the G, squeeze it slightly harder, like that. And you're basically holding the plectrum tighter. So you can practice by doing that, not just muting the strings, holding it tighter. And I'm not actually strumming it much harder myself, it's just the fact that I'm holding it tighter. So a little exercise to practice that. Don't hold it too loose because your plectrum will run away and you'll never find it again. And don't hold it too hard, it's all practice this, and don't hold it too hard because then it'll start sounding a bit messy. So there's 3 tips that hopefully you'll take away with you, and that really will start to give you a lot more control of what you're trying to achieve. Right, practice time now. So we've obviously gone through quite a lot of components today. So what your practice is going to be is putting all these little bits together, nice and slowly, making sure that you know you're hitting the right root note. So one of your practice sessions might be, like we did that, just keep practicing hitting those root notes. Keep practicing changing from one chord to another. So you can download the structure, download the chord diagrams, and just work your way through the structure of the song, which is great because obviously, like I say, you must be in control of what you're doing. But as an additional bit as well, okay, you may get used to play the song, but how about playing the chords in a different sequence? So we know the way the chords are for E minor to D to E minor and G, D to C. Why not play something in a different way? So you're still practicing going from one chord to the other, making sure it's clean and nice and slow, but you may want to, well, this is G, E minor, C, D is a classic used by thousands of songs. As you can hear. And what I've done there, just to show you as an example, I'm only doing 2 downstrokes. So that's what you maybe should start to aim for. Nice and slowly with 4 downstrokes, playing that sequence like that. And then speeding up your 4 strokes. Like that, playing that same sequence. Or any sequence of any chords, G, D, G, D, C, E minor, or the minor, or the suspended seventh, suspended second. So you might. Another example. So then you can start cutting down the downstrokes by gradually improving your speed. Like I said, you've got 2, and you might just want to mess around with the chords. Whatever you want to do is entirely up to you. And what I suggest you do is write those different orders down and remember them so you come back to them, so you're not just playing the order of the song. So with all those bits, making sure you're in control of what you're doing, making sure you're accurate, making sure the notes sound out correctly, making sure you're starting off very, very slowly and not progressing until you've got more familiarity with it. And then use all those little tips that I've given you to try and make yourself even more in control, more confident. Because as soon as you get like that, you won't be able to wait to go on to the next bit, which is obviously going to be equally exciting, but you'll actually feel confident in what you're doing. And hopefully that will give you such a good basis to when you really start getting into a bit more complexity when you're learning the song. Right, so day 1, we've laid the basic foundations for you. We've showed you how to play the chords and everything, or I have rather, no one else has helped me do that, I've done it on my own. So teaching you how to play the chords and how you can be in control of everything, and how there's some little tips you should take away, and then you've got the practice sessions and your bit of homework. Make sure that you get all that so you really nail all that so you're ready for day 2. And when we start day 2, you'll start seeing how we really start to build up what we're doing. So day 2, we're really looking at timing. So we're going to be using a metronome just to sort of like do some basic counting, starting off slowly, maybe going a bit quicker later. So you know what you're doing and you're playing it in time. The usual, we'll be sharing some tips and hints to help you and everything. And you'll really start to see it build until we get to day 3, when we'll be looking at the rhythm. We're getting some rhythm patterns going then. And that's when it gets really, really interesting, much more fun, because we're playing with a backing track that we've put together. So you can stroll along to a backing track with my friend Captain Chaos doing some lead vocals. Chaos by name, Chaos by nature, but he seemed to come up with a good backing track, so I'll forgive him for that one. So that's what you do. So at the end of day 3, you'll have had all these foundations in place, and I can guarantee you'll have had a lot of fun, and more than that, you'll be able to play the whole song. So right, let's crack on, chaps.